Astonishingly, a former NASA engineer has revealed that at this very moment, 2 other Voyager probes are on a mission somewhere out there. A mystery spanning half a century, confirmed by a remarkable convergence of dates and improbable coincidences. I have a real name, but from what I'm about to tell you, you'll understand why I prefer to go by the pseudonym David Kepler. I'm a freelance science journalist, and for the past 20 years I've been covering NASA space missions. And well, if there's one thing I've learned in all this time, it's how to spot situations that don't quite add up with what we're officially told. Small discrepancies in budgets, tons of excess propellant ordered, unregistered night shifts at JPL. Look, these are all details that mean nothing on their own, but put them all together and they can paint a very different picture from what they want us to believe. The story I'm about to share specifically began on March 2024, when I was writing a piece on the 50th anniversary of the Voyager program and found an invoice in NASA's declassified archives from Rockwell International dated 1977 for 4 radioisotope generators, not 2. When I asked for clarification, they said they didn't remember, but that they were probably backup units. But backups are never fully assembled, and they certainly aren't loaded with plutonium-238, which even back then cost $5,000 per gram. Doesn't add up, does it? So I started digging deeper and deeper. I talked to retired technicians, examined Cape Canaveral launch records through the Freedom of Information Act, analyzed recently declassified Soviet satellite photos from that era, and I found what I was looking for. Just hours after the official Voyager launches, there were 2 unscheduled cryogenic engine tests that required complete evacuation of the area within a 15-kilometer radius. Tests that consumed 203,000 gallons of propellant each, exactly the amount needed for a complete Titan III-E launch. After months of research and dozens of false leads, I managed to contact someone willing to talk. A former JPL engineer, now 82 years old, who agreed to meet me on condition of remaining anonymous. I'll call him 7, and don't ask me why. The following interview was recorded on June 15, 2025 in a motel on Route 66, 100 miles from any populated area. 7 has terminal pancreatic cancer. He decided to talk because, as he literally told me, "Before I die, I want to raise some hell." The interview. All right, 7, I want to cut right to the chase. Is it true or not that beyond Voyagers 1 and 2, 2 other Voyager probes were launched that are still on a mission? Yes, Voyager 3 and Voyager 4 launched on August 21st and September 7th, 1977 respectively, 24 and 48 hours after their official sisters. Same launch vehicle, same launch complex, 41, same initial trajectory. But how was it possible to hide 2 space launches? A Titan III-E isn't exactly something that can go unnoticed. We didn't hide them, we disguised them. In the official records, they're listed as Static Fire Test SFT-77B and SFT-77C. The ground crew thought they were static engine ignition tests to verify post-launch procedures. Only 12 of us at JPL and 4 at Kennedy Space Center knew they were real launches. The booster was already on the pad, officially for structural stress testing. We simply went beyond that. Are you telling me you managed to deceive government officials and hundreds of NASA technicians? Yes and no. The right word isn't deceived, it's compartmentalized. The propulsion team thought it was a tank test. Mission Control believed it was a simulation. Only the flight director knew, and he had direct orders from NASA Administrator James Fletcher, orders that never went through Congress. Okay, let's talk about why. What led a small part of NASA to decide to build clandestine probes? I'll tell it the way it was told to me. On the night of November 14, 1976, the ARecibo radio telescope recorded a signal that shouldn't have existed. It wasn't cosmic noise. It was a structured transmission modulated on the hydrogen frequency. And who at ARecibo became aware of this? Wait, let me check my notes. Here we go. Initially, only 3 people. The technician on duty, Ramon Velez, the night supervisor, Patricia Hayes, and the SETI program director Frank Drake. Velez thought it was terrestrial interference, but Hayes noticed the signal showed a Doppler shift consistent with an object beyond Pluto's orbit. Drake immediately understood what it meant. He called JPL on a secure line, and shortly after, an NSA team, the National Security Agency, was already flying to Puerto Rico. What exactly did the message contain? I swear I know very little, and I've been told different versions. The message, lasting about a minute, began with a mathematical calling sequence and continued, which left everyone completely stunned. With the first 7 lines, 287 pulses of the message sent from ARecibo toward the globular cluster M13. It was like they were telling us, "We heard you, we know you're here, and here's where to find us." In all these years, I've always wondered if sending the message to M13, which departed November 16, 1974, was random or part of the game. That's really interesting. I never thought of that. If all this were true, it would mean only one thing: that correspondence with, let's call them aliens, had been going on for a while. Who knows, maybe since the Apollo days. Yes, I believe that too. But wait, what's certain is that their message concluded with orbital parameters and celestial coordinates, more sequences, and then temporal indications based on Earth's rotation period and our orbital position. How could they know our reference systems? And more importantly, who was sending them? I don't know. At the time, I was just an engineer, and many things were kept from me. And when did the decision come to build 2 more Voyagers? Not immediately. For 3 months, it was discussed in great secrecy among the dozen or so people in the know: engineers, NASA administrators, physicists. Half wanted to announce it to the world. The other half, led by Fletcher and supported by Carl Sagan, maintained that humanity wasn't ready. In the end, pragmatism prevailed. The Voyager program was already funded and under construction. We could add 2 extra units without raising suspicions. How were Voyagers 3 and 4 physically built? Where did you find the materials? Officially, we were building structural test units and thermal qualification models. The funds were diverted from 3 canceled projects: the Mars Voyager program, the extended Grand Tour, and a mysterious budget line called Advanced Propulsion Studies. In total, about $280 million in 1976 dollars, equivalent to over $1 billion today. Components were ordered as spare parts or backup units. Martin Marietta built 2 extra spacecraft buses for destructive testing. Honeywell supplied reserve onboard computers. Every contractor thought they were making supplies for the official missions. Hey Curious Squad, before moving on, be sure to subscribe to our channel, clicking on the notification bell, and leave us a thumbs up so you don't miss out on our daily videos. Technically, how did they differ from the standard Voyagers? The differences were substantial. First of all, the communication system. While Voyagers 1 and 2 used only X-band radio transmissions, Voyager 3 mounted a laser communication prototype secretly developed by Bell Labs. It could transmit data at 100 times the speed, but only in direct line of sight. Voyager 4 had a modified radioisotope generator. Instead of 470 watts, it generated 1200 watts initially, with 3 times the standard amount of plutonium-238. This allowed it to enter deep hibernation and wake up decades later. And the onboard computers? Completely different. The public Voyagers had 68 kilobytes of memory. Ours had 4 megabytes, an enormous amount for 1977. We used experimental memory chips that Intel was developing for the Department of Defense. But the real innovation was the software. They could autonomously modify their trajectory based on pre-programmed parameters. They weren't just probes. They were what we call primitive artificial intelligence today. Okay, so these probes launch. Yeah, but to go where? To do what? Wait, does the date August 15, 1977 mean anything to you? Don't tell me the WOW signal captured by the Big Ear Radio Observatory was part of this game. Of course it was, but the most surprising discovery came when I contacted Jerry Emmon, the astronomer who received it. Emmon, now 86, revealed to me that signal wasn't the only one. There were 3 others that night, at intervals of exactly 72 minutes, and that the NSA seized the recordings the next day. They contained operational instructions, parameters that Voyager 3 and 4 would have to follow in subsequent years. But if you'd already received the instructions in 1976, why did you need other signals like the WOW signal? The 1976 message was very brief, with just basic parameters in a wide time window. The subsequent signals were updates, course corrections, as if something was refining the path as it approached. The WOW signal of August 1977 arrived just as we were about to launch the probes. Perfect timing for final adjustments. The frequency wasn't random, it was the hydrogen line, and it arrived just as we were finalizing the probe systems. Strange coincidence, don't you think? But the Voyagers were launched after the WOW signal. How could they receive instructions before they existed? They didn't receive them in real time. We recorded the signals and loaded them onto the onboard computers before launch. But there was another component. The probes were programmed to search for signal repetitions during the journey, and they found them in 1983, 1991, 1998, and 2005. Each time small trajectory adjustments, as if someone was guiding them towards a moving target. A moving target? Weren't they fixed coordinates? That was the first clue that we weren't heading toward a point in space, but towards something that was moving. The coordinates kept updating. The object, whatever it was entering the solar system on a hyperbolic trajectory. We calculated it would become visible to our telescopes around 2017. How did you know in 1977 that the object would become visible in 2017? We didn't. The signals told us which direction to go to meet it, and little or nothing about the intruder's dimensions and therefore its observability. We made hypotheses about its physical characteristics, but I always had the impression that someone in our group knew everything, and to keep the secret even more secret, they let us technicians waste our time on useless calculations. I can't believe it. Are you telling me Oumuamua is involved in all this? That Oumuamua is really an alien artifact? Exactly. When Robert Warrick discovered it on October 19, 2017, the few of us who knew weren't surprised. We'd been waiting for 40 years. The object appeared exactly where our calculations predicted, with the elongated shape we expected, about 400 meters long, 40 wide. Official signs thought it was an asteroid or comet from another star system. But there was a surprise. Which was? The anomalous acceleration. Oumuamua was accelerating without emitting gas or dust, impossible for a normal comet. The scientific community got tangled up in absurd hypotheses. We knew the truth. It was a spacecraft that was maneuvering. It was adjusting its trajectory for the rendezvous with our probes. How did Voyagers 3 and 4 react to Oumuamua's discovery? They woke up. They'd been in hibernation since 2005, but on October 21, 2017, 2 days after the official discovery, both reactivated simultaneously. They started transmitting on a frequency we'd never used before, 8.42 gigahertz, the water frequency. The signals were encrypted with a key we didn't know. They were no longer completely under our control. What do you mean by not completely? We could still receive basic telemetry, position, velocity, system status, but we couldn't command them anymore. It was as if someone else had taken the remote control. The probes began a series of maneuvers we hadn't programmed, burning residual propellant to modify their trajectory. They were aligning for a perfect intercept. There's something that doesn't add up, though. If you could already receive messages directly with radio telescopes, why was it necessary to send physical probes? That's the key question. The signals we received contained only instructions, coordinates, orbital parameters, time windows. But there was always a reference to something they called proximity transfer, something that could only happen with physical contact or nearly so. Our physicists theorized it could be a form of quantum communication or a scan that requires material presence, We don't know for certain. Who decoded these messages? How did you understand them? Once the basic protocol was established, subsequent messages used the same system. There was a team of NASA cryptanalysts working only on this in an office at Fort Meade that officially didn't exist, but they were led to believe it was routine decryption exercises. Speaking of which, where was the control room for Voyagers 3 and 4? When I worked there, it was an unmapped section of JPL. They said it was under Building 230, disguised as service infrastructure, but it was moved years ago. I don't know where. I've been retired since 2010. The information I have now comes from, let's say, old friends who get in touch occasionally. But they're cautious too. They don't tell me everything. Are you telling me you have no idea where and when this encounter will be? I told you I still have contacts, but the current operational details, the specifics of the encounter, I don't know them. I think it will happen soon, probably within the year, but I don't have access to the exact coordinates or precise moment. Was Oumuamua's discovery in 2017 really accidental, or was it somehow prompted? That's another question I can't answer with certainty. Officially, Warwick found it by chance during a routine survey, but the timing, the right telescope looking at the right place at the right time, even some of my contacts suspect someone suggested where to look. Not necessarily someone from the program, maybe Oumuamua itself wanted to be found. At this point, is there anyone who knows the real reason Voyagers 3 and 4 were sent? If there is, they never told me. Even among the original group, which has been replaced over time, many have died. Others retired like me. There were levels of compartmentalization. I knew the engineering part. Others knew the science part. Still others the intelligence part. I'm not sure anyone ever had the complete picture, and maybe it was better that way. How many people are currently aware of the program? I don't know precisely. The original group was about 10 people. Over time some died, others were replaced. I imagine there are now between 20 and 30 people, distributed among NASA, NSA, and private contractors. But that's just an estimate. Compartmentalization has always been our protection. What do you think will happen during this encounter? I don't know, and that's the hardest truth to accept after 50 years. We sent probes towards something we don't understand for reasons we can only guess at. The messages spoke of an acquisition protocol, but we don't know what it means. Acquisition of what? Data, technology, or maybe the probes themselves. Will the probes transmit anything to Earth during or after the encounter? Their software provides for continuous transmission until the moment of contact. After that, we don't know. They might keep transmitting, they might go silent forever, or they might transmit something completely different. My former colleagues have prepared protocols for every scenario, but the truth is, we're groping in the dark. If you don't know when and where the encounter will happen, how can you be sure it will happen? Because the last telemetry I saw 6 months ago showed the probes on a perfect intercept trajectory, and because my contacts are nervous, very nervous, the kind of nervousness of people who know something big is about to happen and can't stop it or control it. Don't you think that encounter or no encounter, everything will end up classified? And that probably after this interview, they'll make you out to be a crazy or at best an eccentric old man? I have no doubt about that, but I don't have much time left to live. I have nothing left to lose now. What do you advise those who will read or hear this interview? To form their own opinion, to pull all the pieces together, all the dates. In November 1974, ARecibo sends a message towards M13. In August 1977, we received the famous WOW signal. A few days later, Voyagers 1 and 2 launch. In 2017, we discover Oumuamua, the first interstellar object. What are the chances? It's all random. The interview ended at 3:47 a.m. on June 16, 2025. 7 seemed to be suffering, but serene. He gave me a USB drive with documents I'm still verifying. Technical diagrams, audio recordings, photographs. Authenticity is difficult to confirm, but the details are extraordinarily consistent. 7 died on July 22, 2025, just over a month after our meeting. The death certificate reports multiple organ failure secondary to metastatic pancreatic carcinoma. I contacted NASA for a comment, no official response. I tracked down Jerry Emmon. When I mentioned the other signals from August 15, 1977, he went pale but wouldn't talk. I'm still deciding if and how to publish this interview. If 7 is right, we're about to experience the most important moment in human history. If he's wrong, I'm about to destroy my credibility by publishing the fantasies of a dying man. But there are too many details that match up, too many documents that seem authentic, and above all, there's that strange tension I sense in the astronomical world. Cancelled meetings, observations booked for maintenance that no one can explain. David Kepler, August 25, 2025. This document is pending publication. Verification in progress with independent sources. Final decision on publication will be made within 48 hours. Document deposited with the Washington Post, The Guardian, and Der Spiegel with embargo until publication. Digital copy distributed through WikiLeaks as insurance. Technical files available upon request for independent verification. Okay guys, is there anything you don't understand about what we've told you? If so, let us know in the comments. And if you want to learn more about the Voyagers, check out our latest release about the fate of Voyager 1 and 2.